What are the origins of the impoverished mind? How did this come about? How did the impoverished reality get started? When was the first aspect or the first situation or the first thought one had to say, oh, I'm in a state of lack, I'm impoverished? Was it because of war? Was it because of being isolated? Or was it being taught? Is poverty taught? It's like poverty is something taught because, thoughts are things. Poverty had to first come to be a thought of, oh, I don't have, I am less than, or I am in a deficit, I am inadequate. Like, where did this come from? This aspect of poverty. Because it's more than, it's not an education issue, right? It's not a privilege issue, right? It's more of a mindset, right? Because people win the lottery all the time and then they lose it. So it's not that they don't have the money. It's just the mindset of poverty. Where did this frequency of poverty come from? And how can people dislodge themselves from this poverty mindset? And how can they get on the frequency of the wealthy frequency? How do you transition that? People say, oh, it's the education, it's finances. No, it's definitely the mindset. It's definitely a mindset of poverty. And nothing to do with race, of course, but it's definitely nothing to do with the mind, the impoverished mind. Of course, upbringing, if your parents are poor and stuff like that, those upbringings, those blocks, those things they instill with you as a child, yeah, that come from that. But where did that come from before that happened? You know what I'm saying? Like, this longevity, this generational cyclical poverty situation, because times transitioned, industrial revolution, the agricultural revolution, and before that, primitive times. Like, the thoughts of the new world order and thought thinking has changed since primitive times. And I'm sure in primitive times poverty wasn't a thing, because you live with the fat of the land. It wasn't this dynamic of poverty. If you hunt, you survive, you thrive. If you have a good community, you thrive. I don't think poverty was an aspect of primitive times. But in the modern times, poverty is very much so a thing. It's a new thought. Because poverty is not an old thought. It's definitely a new thought, a new world order, a poverty frequency. And where did this ideology of poverty come from? The origins of poverty, and how people can transition out of this origin of poverty. Because a lot of people are, I want to say codependent, because we all depend on each other and depend on our resources and our environment for our survival. So I think it's definitely in the mind of people of how they sustain their poverty. And then the people that are wealthy, they have a whole different mental paradigm and how they sustain their wealth and their thinking patterns. And I just want to know, when was that transition to the certain thinking that got people to think the wealth mindset or the poverty mindset? It's just something to analyze, because it's very interesting I'm very interested in how it came about, you know, the different classes of people, caste systems, classism, different isms. Like, where does this start? Where does it end? So very interesting concept of poverty frequency and how people can work all their lives and still be impoverished, right? So it's not about, oh, they're lazy, oh, they don't have a job mindset, right? It's just something is not aligned properly. Some people need to think differently to achieve this transition towards a more abundant life. Because if thoughts are things, these are the things that people are thinking at the end of the day, of poverty, of lack, of disease, of whatever that is that's encapsulated someone's life into whatever it is, poverty, wealth. And so I wonder what also, like, the mind, like, what transitions say, hey, we're going to do this. Hey, of course, people are creative. That's how things get developed, creations, technology. And this technology, these thoughts that materializes and they transition our society, our world that we live in. The power of thoughts. Going from primitive times to agricultural to industrial times. It's definitely thoughts and how we are on some wavelength with each other to around the world. We're on a wavelength with each other to be on this frequency. Either you're on one spectrum or the other of the frequency, but the frequency will be changing. It's always changing. But it seems like the poverty and the wealth frequency will always be in existence to some degree. And how some people will stay stuck and some people will free themselves. And it could change in a matter of seconds, because the thoughts are faster than the speed of light. Our minds are faster than the speed of light, because your mind can outwork your body. You know what I'm saying? Your mind can go farther than the body can. It can go farther than the strength of the body. And so the mind is very powerful. The mind is infinite. So I guess we really need to focus on our thoughts to cultivate a better reality for ourselves. So we don't, so if some people don't stay in positions statuses that they don't want to stay in. And it just starts with a thought, because these are just mindsets of people that they harbor and they are addicted to in a habitual, ritual way that they cannot break. So start thinking different to land yourself in a better position in life. But it's hard because addiction is real. Some people are addicted to poverty. Poverty addiction is real. Just like the sugar addiction is real, poverty addiction is real. Addicted to being a victim is something real, So these addictions are definitely in the mind, right? Addictions are in the mind. And so are living statuses, our realities in the mind. So we just have to somehow, those who wish to, if they're in certain positions that they don't like, need to change them based on their mindset. And there's nothing the government can do for you. There's nothing God can do for you unless you change your mind. There's nothing, like in Africa, they give trillions of dollars to Africa. in Africa struggles to uproot itself in a sustainable way and not depend on aid, foreign aid. They give trillions of dollars to foreign aid to Africa, and yet Africa is still worse than ever. So it's not us giving money to people that's going to make them their lives better. It's their mindsets and their belief systems and their habits and rituals that will make their life better. So it's important to okay, yeah, you're giving somebody money or whatever. Hey, that's just putting a Band-Aid on the problem. Putting Band-Aids on problems do not solve problems, right? Getting to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is always the mind. And the operation, the programming. So wasting trillions of dollars on a nation that has to get out of its own way. They're heavily stuck in tradition, money blocks. The tradition is really keeping them back. A lot of people claim America doesn't have a culture. America doesn't have this. But we don't got them blocks like them other nations got, those big old blocks that's stopping the people from working together, coming together. So even though America does have a culture, it's just not what they believe a culture should be. In the sense of mannerisms and etiquette and things like that. Because America is very ancient. It's the oldest landmass on the planet. America is ancient than mostly all nations, but yet people claim that we don't have the culture. But the many traditions and cultures in other nations, such as Africa, they have so many blocks, so many wars, so many. They're self-destruction type of things. It's not like foreign people are coming to destroy them. They're destroying themselves from the inside out. But that's the culture. They have FGM. Women are cutting their vaginas for men that are poor. You want to get married to a poor man and cut your vagina to seem pure for a man that's impoverished? I don't get it. And their culture is holding women back. Any culture that holds women back is a culture that is self-destructive. And that's tradition. That's culture that they wear as a banner. And say, oh, we have culture tradition, but the women are not prosperous. They can't be prosperous. The women are not free. Very misogynistic society. And the more free a nation is, the more free women are, the better the nation will be. Freedom of expression, not locked down by tradition. Sometimes you got to empty your cup to fill it up again with something new and different, because that water is murky. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I feel a lot of African culture is very murky waters. As far as the society collective goes, on an individual level, they're the people that are striving to do better and do things, but the masses of the nations, different nations, are very stuck in a block that is not progressive for the people, and that they have to escape their nation just to be prosperous and live a decent, basic life. And that's unfortunate because, it's just a reflection, because we're all in this together at the end of the day, but it's a reflection of the minds, old traditions and minds that needs to be revamped and remodeled. Being proud of your culture and tradition, but yet being impoverished at the same time doesn't make sense. It's something you should try to get rid of or try to alter to some degree or upgrade, because if your tradition and your culture is all you have, but it's not sustaining your life, and it's hurting families, it's causing war, it's causing tribalism and separatism, is that really a culture to be proud of? Because you do this a certain way? No, it's not something to be proud of at all. Because why would you be proud of a non-progressive reality. And these are the thoughts. Culture is a thought. Traditions are thoughts, right? Belief systems. They're all belief systems. And these belief systems, which is culture and tradition, are keeping Africa back. They have to go to other nations to be prosperous. They have so much tribalism, and it's heartbreaking when I see the tribalism there. Because they will tend to bring a certain degree to the Americas, their tribal mindsets, and work alongside people that don't have those mindsets. It kind of causes, I won't say tensions, but it causes an imbalance because you came here, but you didn't empty your cup, which is probably difficult for many to do. But you came here, you didn't empty your cup. And being in America, you need to empty your cup when you come from another nation, especially if you come from a very I won't say strict, but addictive belief system that you feel that's the only thing that you have the right on to separate yourself, to make you think you're better because your belief system and your tradition is different from other people, or you feel like someone doesn't have one and you think you're higher than them because you have this belief system. But it's not really serving you because you have to leave your nation and get the basic necessities somewhere else. So that's nothing really to be proud of. Culture, tradition, if it's not serving you, honestly. And if it separates you from other people into a degree where you want to kill them and keep the resources from them, I mean, that's not really something to be proud of. It's something to be like, oh, I have a culture, or I have a tradition. That means nothing. That means really nothing. That's like old programming. That's outdated programming. So based on that, it's like, do we really want more foreign mindsets in our nation that will possibly hinder the frequency of our nation? Or how do we get these, if they do come to our nation, how do we get the people to not forget their traditions if they really love them, but pit them second, pit it third, because clearly it hasn't served you. It hasn't. So maybe we can not lead with that. Don't lead with your culture and tradition because it means nothing to other people. I mean, it's interesting information, but it means nothing to other people. Lead with something else. Lead of who you are. How do you really feel about the dynamic of your culture? Lead with your identity. It's like people in those nations don't really have an identity, a individual identity. They have a hive mindset. Yeah, like people in Africa, they have majority of them have a hive mindset, an insectoid mindset, where they operate and survive in that mode instead of on an individualistic mode, and it kind of hinders their progress in America. So yeah, you may get a good job, you may get a good education, but the American dream, that's not what the American dream is, getting a good job and get educated. The American dream is freedom of expression. The American dream is freedom of progress. And will you be able to progress because you have a good job? No, this is a spiritual thing. The American dream is a spiritual thing. It has nothing to do with poverty or wealth. It has everything to do with expression of self, getting in tune with the self, getting rid of the hive mindset, and finding out who you are as a person, not a collective. That's the American dream. That's what America means. Of course, you can make it wealthy here, or you can be impoverished here. It all depends on your mind. But the American dream is based on you as an individual and your individual satisfaction and your expression and finding out who you are or creating who you are as an individual. and not as a hive tribal mind. So that's what America is. Because I can say that because I'm American. I can say that I know the frequency of America. I know the energetic field of the order of America and what it means. It doesn't mean hive mind. It doesn't mean follow the masses. It doesn't mean America encourages unique progression of individuals, unique progression of technology, unique progression of expression. And that is the American culture. That is the American belief that we stand by, of individualism. And of course, collectively, people can work together collectively in supporting each other's individual realities and not suppressing ourselves because of culture and belief systems. So America is not about suppressing who we are. We are all about expressing who we are, because that is spiritual. That's why America is so powerful, because we're the most spiritual nation in the world. We're allowed to express on an individual level our individual unique souls, and not as a collective mass in separatism from other people. As you embrace yourself as an individual, you can embrace another and appreciate their individuality. But if you have a hive mind, you're going to create separatism in which you can appreciate the individuality and uniqueness of another person, because you're too separate. You have that cult, not occult, but cult mentality where individualism, uniqueness is shunned and repressed. So the mindset, back to the mind, and freedom of the mind, of an individual mind, to think and feel and express oneself. That is the American dream. And if it leads to wealth, so be it. But it doesn't matter, because your soul must be fulfilled. And that's what America represents. The fulfillment of the self. Getting in touch with your soul.